Today on MMB Media TV, we have the pastor of Newmont Olive Missionary Baptist Church with us today, Pastor Jonathan Foster. How's it going, man?
Doing well, man. Just Baptist, not missionary.
Okay.
That's like that. Right. You know, you good. You good.
Yes, sir, man. Where you from, man?
I am originally from Norfolk. So a lot of my family, my mom was born and raised in Norfolk. But after she died, we relocated to Virginia Beach with my dad. So I'm a product of the Virginia Beach school system from around about 6th grade on up.
Wow. Yeah. How was it for you growing up in Norfolk as a kid?
Man, it was wild. And it wasn't wild because like a violence or anything. I just was so different. Most kids wanted to be outside. I wanted to play inside.
Wow.
So I was always like, oh my God, I'm forced to go outside and play. And I didn't really like jail with the kids. It was, they were roughnecks. I was a pretty boy. It was a total different ball game, yeah.
Wow, so you pretty much stayed to yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had one friend. I had one friend, Clifton Spikes, who was, we used to play and I used to spend night at his house, but I don't remember having like a whole charade of friends like most of the other guys in the neighborhood.
Wow. You talk about your mom passing.
Yeah.
How was that for you at a young age?
Oh man, devastating. And today, actually, my mom has been dead for 22 years. So she passed August 26, 2023.
Wow.
At 12:17 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And so today makes 22 years. Devastating. And I never got over it. Don't think I will ever get over it. I always liken it to the thorn that God put inside of Paul. He says, you know, it was a messenger from Satan to buffet me. Excluding that, he says God's grace is sufficient.
Wow.
And so I have not had the opportunity, or don't think I ever get over it. The grace of God is totally given me.
Wow. So it's like day by day.
Oh yeah, day by day, year by year, holiday by holiday, birthday by birthday, new congregant to join the church by new congregant to join the church. So yeah, it's an everyday, it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah. You never know who's listening, who's going through that same thing. So to hear you talk about you going through that situation, you know, and how you deal with it day by day, you never get over it. It's like every day.
Yeah.
You know, that's encouragement to somebody, you know, because some people feel like you can get over it overnight.
Oh yeah. Or you're supposed to already be over it, but that's just not true.
Wow.
Because life at every turn is going to give you victories, and you think about what that moment would be like if that loved one was there to witness that with you, right?
Yeah.
When I had my first daughter, my mom had 5 boys. She always wanted a girl.
Wow.
I was the first one out of 5 boys to have a girl, right? And so you think about what that would have meant for her to finally hold a girl in her own family.
So did you name her after your mom?
I did. Part of her name is Amari Joe Terrell Foster.
Gotcha.
So Amari, and then Joelle is her mother's dad's name.
Gotcha.
He passed away, and then we gave her Terrell, which was my mother's middle name. Her name was Tammy Terrell Foster. So yeah, she has a little bit of my mom. And I swear she looks just like my mom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome, man. Pastor, everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a journey, and their journey is different. So share with us what ultimately put you on that path of becoming a pastor. Take us there.
Oh man, it started as a kid at the Way of the Cross Church. So I remember being that kid at the Way of the Cross Church with Bishop Louis E. Hines was the bishop. Shout out to Bishop. We have the same birthday.
Okay.
I knew on my birthday because his birthday was on my birthday. I would leave at least $5. But nevertheless, I kind of felt the tug early on in my life, and I was the kid who wanted to be in grown folks church, not because I didn't like the Sunday school teachers, but because I felt like God wanted to talk to me in the big church. I felt like the word was for me, and nevertheless, man, you grow up. I remember putting on bathrobes and hanging them over my shoulders because I wanted to be like Bishop Hines.
Wow.
Yeah, walking down the living room floor with a straight face on as he would enter sometimes in the midst of convocation. Nevertheless, man, we kind of grew up and life started happening, right? You go from a young adult and then you eventually hit that path to where you are a teenager. And I kind of feel the pull every now and again, but it's whatever. I like what I think I see. And I become an adult and round about the age of 18 years old, I hear God specifically calling my name and saying that it's time.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, I'm just not going to do any of that. I am way too interested in just trying to do my own path. I've always been in church.
Right.
When I look back over my life, every time I had to move somewhere, whether it was because my dad moved or because of our circumstance, God always put me in the neighborhood with the church on the corner. So that was kind of like, okay, God wants you to stay close to the church. So I always sit in church. But nevertheless, around about 18, 19 years, Amari is born, and I begin to hear God calling me really, really loudly. And I'm like, there is no way God's calling me. I am way too interested in girls at this particular time in my life. I'm ready to do what everybody else is doing. And I am not getting ready to even try to become a preacher. It's nothing about it at 18, 19 years old was attractive. So Amari is born, and at this particular time, man, I'm in the club every week. It's a club, it's a club called Fuegos. And Fuegos is the spot, and you get in free before 10. If you get there before 10, you get to get in, right? I'm in the club every week at Fuegos, and just the story, right? I wear suits to the club. I'm wearing suits to the club, and
just didn't fit.
Yeah, it didn't fit. And one of my friends, well, it was a friend, more associate. His name was, I forgot his name, DJ. I forgot his name. Nevertheless, he would shout me out over the microphone and say, "Pastor in the building, y'all, pastor in the building."
Because of the suit.
It's because of the suit. Everybody used to call me a pastor and a preacher. And I about 18, 19, Mars born, and I'll never forget the time I was in the club and I had 2 drinks in my hand. And I had already had like 2, no lie. And maybe they had watered them down.
Gotcha.
I don't know. But I could not get drunk. and I felt like I heard God say, "Look, man, this ain't even you. You ain't got no business in here." And so, long story short, man, Amari is born. I'm crazy about her mom. I'm crazy about her mom. This is they would call your first love. I'm just gone. And Amari is born, and I'm thinking about getting married. I'm like, let's get married. We gotta be a family. Ain't got no money, nowhere to go, but I'm thinking about getting married, right? And I'm like, man, let's get married. And then she says, "Listen, John, I'm still young. I'm gonna go live my life. I'm gonna go hang out."
How old were you then?
Man, I was 19.
Wow.
Maybe 19. I'm ready to get married right now for the rest of our life. Long story short, she gets married. We break up. That sent me through like a year of depression. This is the first girl I've ever loved in my life. I go crazy. My dad literally has me on suicide watch. He thinks I'm gonna lose it. Those first heartbreaks are something to behold.
Can't
like,
eat,
can't eat, can't sleep. The only thing you got appetite for is water, and that's because you gotta stay alive.
Right.
And many months after that, man, about a year or so after that, she finds love, and she gets married to a young man in the Navy. And I come home one day and I've got court papers in my door, and she says, "I'm looking to relocate to San Diego, California." Now, before Amari had come, I was buck wild.
Right.
And after she had come, I was still buck wild. But I started really tightening up, as the coach would say. She told me she's going to San Diego, and I'm like, no, can't take her to San Diego. This is the reason why I've decided to turn my life around. I mean, like, I pulled my pants up, I cut my hair. I've got to get on the straight and narrow. I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great example. The custody battle gets really bad. It gets really nasty. It gets really messy. And simultaneously, while we're going to court, I'm still trying to scheme my way through life. I'm literally just trying to find out how to make ends meet for myself. I'm living with my cousin at the time, and I'm staying with my other cousin at the time. I just really need a place to lay my head, man. And so the court battle requires me now to prove that I can provide a stable environment for my daughter. And so I'm find a job and save up a few paychecks, find a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment in Port Norfolk and Portsmouth. put together some paperwork, give it to a landlord. She gives me the apartment. Listen, had 1 month worth of rent. Didn't know where the next month was coming from, but I was like, listen, man, I got to get this apartment because I got to get her to stay.
Right.
Man, court, going back and forth to court, continuance. I'm scheming my way through life, and then I find myself really desperate for money. I go on Craigslist.
Wow.
And there is an ad on Craigslist for somebody who wants a job.
Right.
Got no money, and so I click it because I really want to work at this point. Like, I'm really trying to tighten up. The ad says I'm going to send you a $2,000 check. I'm going to take the $2,000 check. You're going to put 1,500 of it in the bank. You're going to send me back 500 for whatever the case is. now I apply for the job.
Right.
And the first thing I'm thinking in my mind is, this man sent me $2,000. He ain't gonna get none of it back.
Right.
So I take the $2,000 check, I put it in the bank of an ex-girlfriend's. It's connected to her dad's account. And so her dad, we get the money out. Once the money come out, it overdrafts his account. He calls the bank, what's his check about, he pressed charges on me. So now I'm faced with uttering of a forged check, electronic fraud, and something else it was. I'm still fighting for my daughter at this time, and
You're going through a lot.
the door is starting to close. It's getting really scary at this time.
Right.
I've got to find an attorney. I go into an attorney's office. Her name is Linda Shan. After meeting with like 5 of them, every last one of them says, listen, it's going to be $4,000, $5,000 for you to be represented by me. You got to come to the table with at least $4,000.
Right.
Stay with me here. I will reach in my pocket and say, man, I don't have that money. I know I love my daughter, and I know I want her to stay here. I have $300 in my pocket. She says, give me the $300. I give her the $300. The next day, I get an email from her office, CC to Amari's mom attorney, and it says, I represent Jonathan Foster in the matter above.
Wow.
We go to court. It's finally time for trial. I have messed up again because in conjunction with having the 2 felony cases in circuit court, I could not hold on to a driver's license. I mean, I was one of those kids who always was driving on a suspended license. I mean, I whether it was I'm not paying fines, inspections dead. I mean, it was so bad.
Yeah.
And it was so bad. I mean, I got a sidebar here. We already couldn't afford to keep the license because we couldn't get the car fixed, which meant the inspection was bad. But then you're gonna put all of these DMV fees on top of all of that. And so that was a whole nother issue.
Wow.
It was a government thing, I think. Long story short, my inspection sticker's bad. Now I've already been pulled over 3 times for driving. And you know, if you are what they consider then a habitual offender, you after the 3rd time you got to do a week in jail or something like that. Man, I'm driving down South Military Highway and a cop is sitting like in a cut, and I go by him, and as soon as I go by him, the first thing, if you're a habitual offender driver's license, the first thing you do is looking at rearview mirror. Them lights are on, he comes out, but it's like 5 cars behind me. Man, I speed up as fast as I can. I pull over into an area, and I wait in my car for about 10 minutes, and I get out and I start walking. He says, hey, come here. Long story short, he takes me to jail, and he gives me not only driving suspended license charge, he gives me eluding charge. Court now is in like 5 days. So I spend the 3 days in jail because I get no bond that night. Get a bond that Tuesday. Court is in a few days. I come home and my car, a couple nights after that, is repossessed. And then 3 days after that, the sheriff comes and finally evicts me out of my apartment because I hadn't paid the rent. I was just trying to get a place to live so we can say we got somewhere to live. All of my clothes are in a garbage can. Court is 3 or 4 days later. I go back to that garbage can. I pull out all of my good clothes. I put a suit on and I go to court. When I go to court, the opposing attorney gets up and she begins to talk about everything that I'm facing.
Right.
Judge, he's got felonies he's looking at. He just was eluding the police a couple weeks ago. He has nowhere to live. He's been evicted. And my sole purpose for turning my life around was my daughter. And I say to God, with all of this stacked up against me, the judge sends us to recess, and I say, God, listen, if you are calling me to preach, and if you called me to be a preacher, then you're going to have to show me evidence today by saving my daughter.
Wow.
We went in that courtroom, and the judge looks at me after all of the arguing taking place. We've been in trial for 6 hours. And he says, I've been doing this long enough. His name is Judge Randolph Blow. That day he had on a pink dress shirt and a pink tie. We'll never forget it. White hair combed to the side. And he says, I've been doing this so long, Mr. Foster, that I know how to make a decision and go home and it doesn't bother me anymore. He says, but this one is gonna bother me for some time. He looked at Mom and said, have you already purchased a home? Are you already set up in California? She says, yes. And we walk out of the courtroom for another recess. He comes back in, he looks at me, he says, Mr. Foster, I'm really concerned about you. He says, I'm concerned about, your lifestyle and what you got going on. And we don't even know if you're going to be convicted on these charges and spend any time in jail. It's obvious that Amari's mom is going to be able to give her a better quality of life in San Diego. He said, this decision's going to hurt me for a long time. But then he looked at Mom and said, I'm going to deny the request to move to San Diego. And I walked out of that courtroom and I said, God, you got me.
Wow.
And here we are.
So that set the journey.
That set the journey.
Motion.
I promised him that if he got me out of that I would preach. And so, long story short, I accepted my call to preach at Grove Baptist Church in a pew on a Sunday morning. And then I met my pastor, John C. Smith, at a funeral. My grandfather's wife passed away, and the family asked me to get up and give remarks. I get up, and I know nothing about John C. Smith. He knows nothing about me. And at the end of that, my remarks, at the end of the funeral, I finished preaching. He comes and shake my hand. He says, man, there's a preacher on the inside of you. And I say, you think so? He said, I know so. And we went to lunch that day.
Wow.
And from that day, he groomed me and just really poured oil on my head, man, loved me, helped me get myself together. I was on the side of the road doing asphalt when I met him. And he trained me. When it was time that the Lord spoke that I get a license, he licensed me.
Wow.
My preaching itinerary kicked off, was on the road almost every weekend after I started preaching. He thought it was time to ordain me. And then I happened to be at a service where one of the associate ministers of New Mount Olive Baptist Church was head of the youth department and said, will you come preach for us? And I said, yes. And they invited me back. The pastor retires, and the rest is history.
Wow. Yeah. So how old were you then? Like
27 years old, man. So I got licensed at 23. No, I got licensed at 20, licensed to preach at 24, ordained 25.
Wow.
And then got called to the church.
Wow.
In 2018, I was 27.
Wow. As a young pastor, what are some of the challenges that you face as a young pastor that you can encourage somebody else with?
Not knowing, man, if I was really good enough and if I could really do this. Only thing I knew at the time was that I wanted to preach. I wanted to holler every week. I wanted a black suit. I wanted a white shirt. I wanted to walk with the rest of the associate ministers when something important was going on, and I wanted to preach all the time, and I wanted to be important. And I'll never forget, man, my third month here, when you get elected, the church packs out the first couple of weeks, couple of months. But then, man, like reality settled in.
Wow.
And I remember going out into that sanctuary, sitting in the middle seat, and reality had hit that it was only 12 people out there. I counted them this Sunday. And I thought to myself, what in the world have you gotten yourself into? Now you're going to be a laughing stock because you got called to a church that
Right.
people are already out there saying that you shouldn't be preaching in the first place.
Wow.
You ain't anointed.
Wow.
You don't know what you're doing. And now you get a church and you think you all of this. And now you got 12 people. Now what you're going to do? And you know you're not good enough to do this. You have no education. You are in big trouble, my dude. And so the constant wrestling of, are you good enough? Can you do this? Are you anointed enough? Does God love you enough to make sure that you're gonna be taken care of? Does God love you enough to give you the wisdom for this journey? And He did. So it was a constant tussling of if you're good enough, then, and it's sometimes still the constant challenge of are you gonna be good enough as the church grows, as God elevates, and as things change? Can you hold on? Can you build and grow something sustainable? So it's the challenge of that, and then it's the challenge of coming into a very traditional Baptist church.
Okay.
I thought to myself a couple months in, either I'm gonna get put out or I'm gonna put some folks out. So it was really, really challenging, man. People, you know what happens in the traditional Baptist church? A lot of people you want it their way. It's got to be their way. Their grandmama purchased this pew. They've been here this X amount of years, and who is this new young pastor? I'm ultimately one of the youngest people in the building, and so it was the culture breaking, the traditional situation breaking. So it's been challenges, but God has been faithful.
So how many years now?
It has been 7 years. I celebrate
Shout
7
out
years
to
in
you,
November. This year, 2024,
Amazing.
November 18th, 7 years.
Amazing. Here's another question. You talk about balancing. How do you balance the family at home and the family at church? Because I know most of your time is here.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that? You got kids.
Yeah, I
Talk about that, man.
I'm bad at this. I'm really, really bad at
Okay.
this. I put them all together, make everybody one big happy family. Now that's probably not the most healthy way to do it. But I wouldn't lie to you on the interview. I'm terrible with it. I spend probably about 80 hours a week working on church administration. We have new staff now, so it's always something changing.
Gotcha.
One of the things that I tell my children, I hope it's working, but I always share with them. I say, listen, I didn't have half of what you had when I was your age. I've got to work like a dog so that you're able to enjoy the things that you have. And so Dave Ramsey says, work like no one else is working, so later on you can live like no one else is living. And I constantly keep that before them. And I just I try to overcompensate with gifts and stuff, but the balance, I'm terrible at it. And I think that as
honest.
I think as you continue to grow and as God continue to open up new avenues, and as new staff come in and new leaders come in, even now I feel weights being lifted. I can delegate. But I think I don't know if any pastor at year 7 can say they've mastered the balancing. I only say that because I hear people like, great big pastors who say, look, I'm still struggling with how do I balance this all. So, one day at a time.
Absolutely.
Try to be there for every birthday. Try to be there for every big moment throughout the week. It's touch and go.
You take breaks?
Yeah. No, I don't take breaks. Even on vacation, I'm working.
Wow.
But I'm gonna tell you,
I
have such a love for the church that it's not even work. Like,
Got you.
Like unless I just get
you.
overwhelmed and pummeled with administration stuff, unless things are happening and it's a fight with something that we're trying to get done, I may become overwhelmed. But man, I can work all day long and be satisfied.
Got you.
Yeah, undying energy for God's church and for God's people.
Wow.
And what I think God has blessed us to build.
It makes you come alive.
Blessing us to be. Yeah.
Wow.
If I didn't do this, I don't know what else I would do. Like if I go on vacation, man, I'm gonna find a computer somewhere to work on a graphic or the vision plan or the vision cast. I'm gonna text somebody from staff and say, how about this?
Right.
It's just when you love what you do, you never work a hard day in your life. And I really believe that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's a great segue to what you talk about. When you're away, you find a computer, you find a graph. Let's talk about media, man. What's your thoughts about media today? How important it is?
Media is incredibly important. I mean, it's how you communicate, it's how you stay involved, it's how you find out which direction you need to be going in. I'm a big fan of media. If I were not pastoring, I would serve in the media department at a at what they would call a mega church. I don't know if those things exist anymore, but that's what I would do.
Why do you feel you would do that?
Because I love the production. I love the behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
I love the you here, you there. We're gonna get this done over here. Make sure this is done. So one day, which is Thursdays on my calendar, is production day.
Okay.
So a lot of probably what you probably seen on our church page, even on our lives, I produce a lot of it with the help of our staff now.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love media. It is my second love. Graphics and videos and reels. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. It keeps you on the cutting edge of everything.
Yeah, you gotta know. You gotta know.
Absolutely, man. You're an amazing guy, man. I love this conversation. Love this conversation. If somebody was to ask about who is Jonathan Foster today, what would you say?
Someone who has learned to trust God. And I know people say this all the time, and it's just kind of like a cliche type of deal. But someone who's learned to trust God at every turn. Yeah, sometimes it's challenging, man, but I just can't go back into my repertoire of battles and see where God didn't show up for me.
I like that.
And so he's a pastor, he's a preacher, he's a friend. Somebody who trusts and loves God people, and love what he does for a living.
I love that, man. Got you. So how can people find your church, man?
New Mount Olive Baptist Church, 662 Fernwood Farms Road in the great city of Chesapeake, Virginia.
Wow.
Every Sunday at 11 o'clock. We're right here every Sunday. And we don't start at 11:01. We start at 11 o'clock.
Wow.
Sharp countdown.
No matter what.
Listen,
Let's
if there's
go.
one person in the pew, 11 o'clock, we conducting business.
Wow. What's the motto here?
Motto here is we exalt, reach, and strengthen. We exalt Christ in all that we do. We're called to reach broken people. Broken people, whether they're broken because they're going through things in their life, or whether they're broken because they don't know Jesus Christ. And then it is to strengthen God's people in God's church. Because no matter how much you know about Christ, no matter how long you've been in church, there becomes moments in your life where you need to be strengthened by the word of God and strengthened by other believers. And we strengthen the church by making disciples, teaching them about Jesus Christ, and then helping them reach somebody else.
Amazing. Listening to your story and the things that you've gone through in terms of court and all of those things matter, because you can have compassion for the next person.
Yeah.
So the last question as we wrap things up, what would you say to a person who comes into your church depressed, like you can see yourself in them? How would you deal with that?
I'm telling them off bat, and this is such a Baptist cliche quote line, but even if God has to reach way down, he will pick you up every single time. And the enemy's greatest trick is to make us feel like we messed up so bad that there's no way that we can come back from this. But there is no lion's den. There's not a mountain high, a valley low. There is no fiery furnace. There is no Goliath. There is no scandal that God can't bring you back from. God does his best work with broken people. And every time you see him doing anything in the Bible, it's because he's picking somebody else up. He's picking somebody else, reminding them that you can do this again. And I've been there. I know what depression, anxiety feels like, but I also know, man, that those things last for a short amount of time. One of my favorite quotes that I draw down on my ministry with, and that I look at my life with, is a quote that says, when times are good, we forget that they will be bad again. And when times are bad, we forget that they will be good again. No matter how bad it is, it's like a revolving door. It'll be good again. May take some time, but you'll be all right.
Amazing.
You will be all right. I'm confident.
Amazing. Yeah. Great conversation, man.
No doubt, man.
Great conversation. I appreciate you. Any last words you want to give?
Thank you for considering me, man.
Absolutely.
Incredible team, man. You all have done an incredible job. Y'all got me set up like I'm going to be on NBC.
Absolutely.
But may God speed to you all in your journey.
Yes, sir.
And
likewise.
what God is doing in life.
Amazing, man.
No
Thank you
doubt
so
about
much.
it. Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, sir.